Okay, my name's Tina McCaffrey, and I have decided, after giving it a lot of thought, to stand as the nominated candidate for the Scottish May elections on May the 6th, 2021. I was asked to stand for the SSP, the Saving Scotland Party. I had to think about it for a long time because I've got a successful business teaching aesthetics to medics and non-medics, and it's a career that I love. However, I also believe that the industry needs, aesthetics and beauty industry needs protecting and a voice in Parliament. And that became really evident and clear in the COVID crisis over the past year, when we were put into lockdown and pubs and restaurants were all allowed to open way before the beauty and aesthetic clinics across Scotland, England and Wales. We were one of the last to open. And in Scotland, when we did open, within 2-3 weeks, we were told that we couldn't do any treatments if we had to remove the mask. This is taken into account that in our industry, we are highly trained in PPE, we're highly trained in the aseptic non-touch technique, we know all about sterilisation, autoclaving, and how to take patient consults and all that sort of thing. We had changed our approach to patient intake forms so that we wouldn't be doing them face-to-face, we would be doing them over Zoom, and there would only be one person in the clinic at any given time with the practitioner. And that was implemented by 95% of clinics and beauty salons across Scotland. But we were told, no, you cannot do a treatment if the mask was removed. Now, you have to think about that from a logical perspective, and that is, you can go and sit in a pub, you walk in the pub with your mask on, take your mask off when you sit at a table with 5 other people, and a metre away will be another table of 6 people, all with their masks off, all in a confined space, all eating, drinking, laughing, talking. And the fact is, droplets, as we talk, droplets spread. And yet, you cannot come to me or another practitioner in the beauty and aesthetics industry to have anything done if the mask has to be removed, with the practitioner in full PPE. And when I say full PPE, I don't just mean a mask. I mean a mask, a visor, aprons, hairnets, you name it, they will be in it. They will be sterilising the couch, the trolleys, the equipment in the room, and that will be done after every client. And yet when you go into a pub, you get a quick wipe of the table and then the next group of people sit down. And yet we're unsafe and we can't operate. So that's 90% of our businesses. And that is still the case now. Even though, I mean, yes, we're in another lockdown. But the fact is, when we go back, we still will not be able to do a treatment if the mask has to be removed. You've got to remember that that is at least 90% of most clinic and salons business, because most of our work is in the neck face area. If you want a lip wax, you have to remove the mask. If you want a chin wax, you have to remove the mask. If you want a facial, you can't do a facial from here up. And I, under Freedom of Information, asked the Scottish Government for scientific and medical proof that the mask was necessary and what evidence they had to show that they could implement such a rule that would affect our business. And it came back under Freedom of Information that they had no scientific or medical data to prove that fact. So in other words, they've shut down 90% of our business for no valid scientific or medical reason. Now add that to, as I've just said, that you can go and sit in a pub with 5 other people, in a pub packed with other people that you don't know, with no masks. The logic of that does not add up, does not make sense. And the government is getting bad advice. And it needs, the industry needs somebody to stand up for it, somebody to be their voice. And I'm going to be that voice. I'm going to stand in Parliament, and I'm going, or stand as an MSP, and get elected in May, and I will be the voice for beauty and aesthetics and hairdressing in Scotland. And I feel that that's very important. Plus, moving forward, the regulations are going to change with regards to aesthetics and who and what can be done. And that needs a voice from somebody who's in the industry and who has hands-on, first-hand practical experience. So that is one of the reasons why I'm standing, is because I believe my industry and the people in my industry are not being represented fairly or accurately, and they need that representation. Plus, most of the businesses in my industry, because of the no mask rule, have been severely restricted in what they can do. But even though they are severely restricted, they didn't come under any form of financial help, because although we've been severely restricted, we weren't classed as severely restricted. Unbelievable. So yes, I'm standing for the Saving Scotland Party, and I was going to stand as an independent, but you stand a better chance of getting elected in if you're with a party. And the Saving Scotland Party is a new party that's been formed recently. So, you know, its beliefs and its range of views and what it wants to achieve is different to your mainstream parties as it stands. So that's why I'm standing with a political party rather than going independent and trying to get in on my own. I also believe that it needs a voice from somebody who can fight when it comes to things such as mental health issues, depression, suicides, substance abuse, and the fact that it is underfunded. I mean, the current Scottish Government have released funding for mental health or drug issues across Scotland, but it's nowhere near enough, because the damage has been critically done over the past 4 or 5 years, and we've had drug rehab centres closing left, right and centre across Scotland, and that needs to change. It also needs to change in the context that since COVID, there's been no support structure put in place. There's been a higher increase in suicides across the UK, not just in Scotland. Depression has increased, substance abuse has increased, and none of this has been taken into account. Lockdown has affected people on many, many levels, and mental health is one of the biggest areas that it has affected by lockdown. And none of this is being taken into account and reflected with the support that's available out there. And that needs to change, because if you go by what the politicians and so-called scientists are saying at the moment, COVID is with us to stay. Even with a vaccine, you don't have immunity. You will still get it. You can still pass it on. Symptoms may not be so severe. It's probably going to have to be an annual injection, blah, blah, blah. So we're still going to have issues surrounding COVID. And, you know, nobody at the moment knows whether, you know, when we're going to come out of lockdown, hopefully March, April time. But nobody can say categorically that we're not going to get thrown back into another lockdown or a semi-lockdown over the coming year. And we need to ensure that the most vulnerable in our societies who do suffer from mental health issues are protected and given some form of support and a structure, a framework there that has been severely undermined over the past few years and basically been forgotten about through COVID. So that needs to change, and it needs people to be able to go in with a fresh view and a fresh outlook, you know, people from the ground. There's, you know, if you look at the past 4 years and who you voted in 4 years ago, I know the person I voted in my area, 2 of them, the 2 local MSPs for Ross Sutherland, my area, Cromarty and all that. I went out and I campaigned for them and put leaflets and flyers and all that sort of thing. And in that 4 years, she did nothing for me. Neither of them did. And when it came to lockdown and my industry and, you know, getting their voice and getting them to ask questions in the Scottish Parliament, I got no response. And it took me going on social media, on Facebook, saying to Mari Todd on a post where she was saying XYZ about what was happening. So, well, it's a shame you're not responding to my emails with regards to my industry that's been severely affected and is being restricted. And because I put that on her post, it got a response, and I finally got an email back. But again, nothing was done. And surprisingly, I mean, I was an SNP supporter for a few years because I do strongly believe in independence for Scotland. But I'm no longer an SNP supporter. I haven't been for about a year and a half, 2 years, because of various behaviour that goes on, and the fact that last year there was no support from my local MSPs that I'd fought to get in, gone out campaigning for, and they didn't even have the decency to do anything until I took it public on Facebook that they had done nothing, and then they responded. But do you know who did respond? And that was the Conservative MSP. And she didn't just respond to my email, she followed up with me without me chasing her. And I've not been a Tory, but I give her hats off to her and respect to her, because she was the only MSP in this area that actually responded to my requests without me chasing her, without me having to make it public that I'd asked for her help. And she followed it up. So yes, I'm standing. I'm standing for the Saving Scotland Party, and it's a small party. It's not a big party, but the point to the party is that we're the voice of the normal, everyday person in our constituency. I'm standing for the beauty and aesthetics industry across Scotland. I will be the voice for the industry and support the industry by getting elected in, and I will be the voice for my area, the Highlands and Islands, and I will support things for my area. One of them being autism, and the fact that there is no proper framework or structure in place for autism, children suffering from autism, and their families, and their schooling suffering. And that's been majorly affected since COVID. And I've had families contacting me saying that, they were told that they would get extra help for homeschooling, and they've had nothing. They've literally been left in the cold. So their children have got no support, no education, no nothing. And all of these are things that need to change. They need to be out there for support, and it needs a voice of somebody who isn't going to toe the party line. That's one of the reasons that I stood for the Saving Scotland Party, because I said to them, I won't toe the line. If the party says one thing and I don't agree with it, and that it's going to be detrimental to people in my area, then I won't toe the party line, and I would walk away from the party. And I discussed this before I even accepted the nomination for being a candidate for them. And as they said, it's not that they won't have a party whip and things like that. It's a party of equal views, and we do what's best within the party for our areas. So if one of the candidates, say, is in Glasgow, and something we're doing doesn't fit for that constituency, then they don't have to do it. But our views and our beliefs are very similar as a party in what we want to see achieved. So that's the party that I'm standing for. And putting it in bullet points, my aim is getting elected in, and then fighting for mental health issues, support structures, frameworks, and making sure that all areas, depression, organisations, and the NHS, all of these are given not just the financial ability, but the frameworks to actually cohesively pull together to support those people who are suffering. But it's not just the individuals that are suffering from depression, thinking of suicide, doing drugs or alcohol and things like that, or got gambling addictions, but it's also the families. You know, when somebody is depressed and suicidal and things like that, a lot of the time families don't understand how to help that person. They don't understand how or why the person feels the way they do. So you get the standard, oh, pull yourself together, it'll be fine, you know, all that sort of thing. And that sort of thing doesn't help. But if you haven't got a support structure there for the families and friends that are being as affected by depression, you know, they've got somebody in the family who's depressed, it affects the family, it affects the children. And a support structure and framework needs to be there for them as well, to give them the tools to be able to help their loved one in what they're doing. So I'll be campaigning and fighting that in Parliament to ensure that that does get put into place. And I will be fighting for help, support and funding for autism and the various areas on the spectrum that autism falls, because it's a very broad spectrum, and that the support is there for children who have autism, for their families, for schools, and for outside organisations that can step in, which we currently don't have. And then, of course, we've got child abuse, and child abuse is horrendous. There was a piece in the British Medical Journal recently that said in, I think it was May last year, that child abuse in 1 month had increased by 1,400% in 1 month alone in the amount of children that were being abused and being seen in hospitals. And I mean, that is May last year. That is shocking. I mean, we haven't had the stats since for the child abuse and the increase. And it's the same with domestic violence. Domestic violence doesn't just affect women, it affects men as well. And we don't hear a lot about the men that are being abused by their partners, but domestic violence affects both. And since lockdown, that's been increased drastically. And because the person that's being abused can't get away. They're with their partner 24/7, and the same goes for the children. The children were having at least some kind of respite by going to school, and you know, people were looking out for them in school. That peer structure, teachers, dinner ladies, etc. They haven't got that anymore. So you know, and again, that's down to being put into lockdowns, having restrictions put on us, but nobody actually looking behind the scenes and going, hold on, if we're going to have lockdowns, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We need to look at the severe impact that that's going to have moving forward on families, on depression, on suicide rates, on child abuse, on domestic violence. And all of this are things that need to be tackled. And I will tackle them. I will stand and be the voice for those people. And I'll certainly be the voice for those in my area. Okay, that's all I came on to say. And I will be releasing more and more videos, but they will become more compact. So I will discuss in each video one issue and take it forward. And that's how a lot of the videos will go from now on. They'll be very politically based on what I want to achieve and what I want to do for the beauty and aesthetics industry, what I want to do for my area, the Highlands and Islands, as a regional MSP. When I get elected in, see the positivity there, when I get elected in. Now, it's you'll notice on my YouTube channel that I've put up that Tina is like Marmite. You either love her or hate her. And the reason I've adopted that is because my best mate always says, you know, you either love Tina or you hate her. It's one of the two. It's just like Marmite. And that's because I'm basically blunt and straight to the point. I don't see the point. You know, it's quite simple. If it needs doing, I'll get it done. And if you don't like me, but you need help, I'll still get it done for you. If I don't like you, I don't make any bones about it. If I don't like somebody, I just don't bother. But if that person needs help, if that person needs something done, I will get it done for them, regardless. And it's a fact. When you look at what I have done over the few years, whether you like me or not, I have got things done for the community. And that's the type of person that we need in government. We need, or in Parliament, we need people who don't care whether they're liked or not. But when it comes to defending and protecting and ensuring that people have what they need, that's the type of person you need. So, and that's who I am. Me or you hate me, one way or another, I'll get it done. I intend to do, I'm going to do my damnedest to get in May. And when I do, I will fight for the Highlands and Islands, for what they need and what people need. And I will damn well make sure that the beauty and aesthetics industry gets heard and gets heard properly. I will come on and do another one shortly.